Kevin Williamson's great at like really like making you think who the killer is and stuff, and it doesn't feel out of pocket and stuff because all the pieces were there. And
quarantine can be fun.
Drive-by movies, you're watching
fresh releases.
My name's Blaze.
And my name is James.
And this week we're talking the brand new Peacock original film, Sick.
Oh my God! Just one moment. Unlock the door! Unlock the door! You have a mask, don't you? Your mask. What? I can't let you in. It's not safe. Are you kidding me, lady? Please!
Let's go back a couple of years where things and times were just so much more simpler during the pandemic. Due to the pandemic, Parker and her best friend decide to quarantine at the family lake house alone. Or so they think. So a Peacock original, I don't know when the last time we did a Peacock original. We've seen movies that went straight to Peacock. But this is an interesting movie that's been getting some pretty decent reviews. I'm surprised it's coming out in January because that's usually when you dump a really bad horror film into theaters. But instead, we're getting just a kind of unknown, quiet movie making its way to Peacock, but it's making some decent rounds. But what do we think about it? Blaze, let's hear your thoughts first.
So yeah, this was one of those kind of sleeper movies where honestly, I was like, oh, this is like a COVID movie. Or I don't know if the movie exactly was a COVID movie, but I mean, the movie is about COVID. So that was kind of like, I feel like a lot of the movies that have come out that have been like heavily about COVID have just been kind of annoying, lackluster, just not that funny, or like, parodying the situation, I guess. But yeah, this was one where I felt like it could be a little cringe on the nose. It depends how that kind of hits you, the whole COVID thing. But this one for me, I felt like it had great moments of, hilarity, but also still was a pretty intense slasher. I don't think it's, totally incredible. I just think I had a pretty fun time watching this movie.
Yeah, I'd say it's a solid movie overall. It's not a movie that I ever feel the need to revisit, but it again showcases what made Kevin Williamson so fun with the Scream franchise. I don't think he was a part of the most recent Scream movie, and I remember we reviewed that for our show, and I was just not a fan and was very disappointed. And one thing that Kevin Williamson really does is just capture modern audiences really well. The guy's been writing for decades and still captures teenage voices very well, I feel like. And problem with this movie is, though, of course, whether or not this was shot during the pandemic, I assume it was and stuff. It uses that piece very well once the plot gets going, but it's kind of hard to talk about this movie without spoiling it, because once we get to the climax of the film is when I actually really started to enjoy the movie. But downfall is, though, the climax is kind of with only 20-25 minutes left to go into the movie. Before that, it's nothing bad necessarily. It's just all stuff I've seen before. Nothing was really original other than it taking place during quarantine time. That's the only thing that felt somewhat fresh, but it feels very different and original, and definitely saves a movie and makes me recommend it because the better climax and latter half of the film. Definitely.
This is one of those movies also where I feel like it does seem like a modern, representation of Scream in a way, done without maybe the phone calls as much, and done with, especially with texting in this movie. Texting stuff doesn't really work for me that much, to be honest. They kind of take the gas off, but at least the hook of the film. It gave heavy Scream vibes, especially with the texting, and still had a bunch of fun and funny COVID kind of jokes in there, which I liked. But yeah, this movie, I felt like it had that Williamson formula of get you with the hook, has an interesting story, a lot of the killer moments definitely kind of remind you of Scream for sure in this movie. But yeah, like you, I would say this is definitely worth a watch if you had Peacock. But I don't know if I would recommend anyone getting Peacock, because honestly, I think when it comes to Peacock, it is just not an enjoyable experience, like navigating it. Watching the movie, there would be multiple times where I would just get the loading screen for no reason.
Really?
I don't know. I just feel like overall, like the app experience was not that good. I've been having issues a lot, even with my Netflix at home. For some reason, when I start playing something, it just like home screens. I don't know if it's my TV or what, but it's happened on multiple TVs.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with apps these days, but yeah, I've also been having problems with Netflix. But the most buggy ones of all, I'd say, is for sure Peacock, which is a bummer because, I love Universal. I love going to the theme park for the most part. But anyone who works for NBC Universal who helps work for the Peacock app, you guys really got to get it together. It constantly crashes on me. There's been plenty of times where I try to start a movie and the app just freezes and I can't move my cursor around on my Roku TV, or just like the app just closes and I have to reboot it up again. And that's always the longest part with all apps, just rebooting it and stuff. Like, it's not end of the world stuff, but like, that like can be enough to turn someone away from watching a movie like this. Just like, damn, Peacock's not working. Like, that's not what you want when you have a somewhat decent movie here, which is unfortunate.
So I do think a lot of that actually has to do with the fact that it has ads. At least my Peacock version has ads. It was a bundle that I got, and I didn't know after I bought it that it came with ads, and I was like, I wish I didn't have this, because I would prefer just not having it if it comes with ads personally. But I do feel like sometimes the ads is what gets it to be so buggy. It's like trying to load those ads or know when to load them or what. I just felt like it was giving me issues, and I'm like, dude, it's got to be the ads. Like, it's just not factored in properly or something.
One thing that is weird about Peacock, actually, now this is a Peacock review, but I know that if you pause the movie, an ad does pop up, not like a video version, but just like a little billboard screen. So that confused me when I like paused it for whatever reason, came back to my TV. I was like, what the hell happened? And then I was like, oh, it's just the pause screen. But like, that's an interesting way to advertise. But I'm like, damn, you really need to advertise that much on your app? Like, I don't know how many people are using it, but I know if you are a big fan of The Office, like you probably have Peacock or whatever, or maybe you bought all the DVDs. But yeah, back to Sick though. Like I thought the performances were cool, but like I really like the killer's motives as we get into the spoiler territory. But one thing I would have liked to have seen is a more elaborate, funny costume. Like, this is going to be a minor spoiler, but like, the killers are quarantine inspired to kill these characters within the movie. So I would have loved to have seen them wear like a hazmat suit or something ridiculous like that, something like that, just to like, kind of ham it in and stuff. Like, just because the killers just feel so basic and stuff, they just look like your basic robber intruder and stuff. And the whole movie, I'm just like, why are they killing the random kid? Like, I know there's got to be a story here and stuff. So I was doing the Kevin Williamson script thing of just like, oh, who's the killer and what's their motive and stuff. I was like, it's got to be like her ex-boyfriend or something, and DJ's got to be involved with it. But I was like, oh no, DJ died pretty early on. So Kevin Williamson's great at like really like making you think who the killer is and stuff, and it doesn't feel out of pocket and stuff because all the pieces were there. And it's just funny to hear that like the parents are just trying to get vengeance and stuff. Yeah,
I totally agree with you, because they weren't even I like that this movie like twists your expectations with like the kind of more COVID serious people being the killers as opposed to like the anti-vaxxers in a way. But then I just felt that, maybe to take the virus so seriously, they would have at least had like an N95 mask.
Yeah,
because they're just wearing they're just wearing Surgeon General masks. But maybe because this takes place at the beginning of the pandemic, kind of, N95 masks were very hard to come by at the time.
Yeah.
So.
And also for people who were supposed to be taking COVID very seriously and everything, like that's why I thought like a hazmat suit would have been funny. Like, they're overly cautious with COVID because, they don't play pretty with all the blood that's going around throughout the movie. And they do take off their masks quite often throughout the movie. Like, and I wouldn't say they were 6 feet apart at all times. These were the hardcore rules during quarantine and stuff. So like, why didn't they go hardcore? If you're going to give us that, like, I would have loved to see more hardcoreness out of it, just to play it off for a more comedic effect, because it comes off as a comedic moments when they bring up and the dialogue that they're choosing, why this is their motivation. It is really funny, but I'm just like, they should have kept the joke going and stuff, I thought.
Yeah. Honestly, this movie overall, like, I think it was treading a fine line of like, it could have been, you know, that really super cringe COVID movie. And I think it will be possibly that for some people. I don't feel like it was that for me at all. I'm kind of getting the vibe that it wasn't either.
Yeah, I'd say it's a good group movie to watch with some friends. It's a really short movie. I was surprised that I think it was like 85 minutes long, and it did fly by like that. It really, like, it gets going at the right moments, but like I said, the first like 45 minutes is just all stuff I've seen before, so nothing was too thrilling, but still kept me gripped enough to. But yeah, what were your initial thoughts on the movie? You can check it out on Peacock, like we were saying. Great way to help support the shows by watching and coming back here to leave a comment and let us know what you thought about the movie.
And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, and click that notification bell to get all of our latest updates.
And if you can't get enough of us here on YouTube, catch all our social media links down below for Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and our Letterboxd accounts. That'll conclude this week's episode. Tune in next week for a brand new video.